Satisfação estar aqui falando com você, principalmente pelo que você representa para o jornalismo no mundo. No Brasil, a gente está vivendo uma situação aí 10 anos já de uma escalada de violência que só aumenta. A gente achava que quando ia arrefecer, que quando ia diminuir, na verdade, aumentava. E agora, no período pós-segundo turno das eleições, a gente viveu uma situação sem precedentes na história brasileira democrática, com mais de um ataque a jornalista por dia. Quando a gente achou que isso ia diminuir, veio a questão em Brasília, da invasão em Brasília, do que a gente chama aqui de 8 de janeiro, com mais de 40 casos de ataque a jornalistas. Várias organizações do Brasil, 11 organizações, se reuniram, fizeram um relatório que será entregue nos próximos dias ao governo brasileiro, ao recém-criado Observatório de Violência contra Jornalista. Mas a gente sabe que essa realidade que a gente está vivendo aqui no Brasil não é uma exclusividade. A gente sabe que isso está em escala global, em governos de direita e de esquerda, no mundo inteiro. A questão é que o jornalismo foi colocado como inimigo, né, como alvo a ser atingido. Como é que a gente reverte esse processo? O que o jornalismo precisa fazer para reverter esse processo?
Katya, thank you for the question, but unfortunately, it's the algorithms that are doing it. It is technology that is doing it, and we are the victims. The data has shown us that online violence is real-world violence, and yet these algorithms of distribution prioritize the spread, not just of lies, but anger and hate. I called it in the Nobel lecture, toxic sludge. It incites hate, it incites violence, and that's part of the reason that violence has increased, right? There is a real world social harm, far more also. Journalists, we are at the front lines in this because we keep trying to do our jobs. And yet the people who used to be our audience are being inflamed by the toxic sludge of the social media platforms. So, I discuss this all the time with other heads of news organization, and they keep asking, what can we do to regain trust? Unfortunately, it is not in our hands. We gave up the rights of distribution, except maybe right now you control of the television, of the satellite waves that are pushing this. But online, it is algorithmic amplification, right? It is Google that will bring search back to your website. It is social media that will distribute this. And when they do that, they will not prioritize rational behavior, rational thought. They will prioritize far more incendiary. So here's the problem. How do we stop it? Laws. We must demand citizens, what social media platforms call users. We need to demand accountability from these social media platforms. And then that must be turned into legislation. Look, in the book, I talk about how we deal with this problem right now of insidious manipulation of our emotions, right? And I say education is the long term. In the medium term, it's got to be legislation. Because if your journalists are getting this many attacks in a day, this is a systemic social problem. And it is triggered by our patterns of communication, by the design of the platforms that spread it. In the short term, we must organize because journalists can't do this alone. We need to do this with civil society, with business groups, because you cannot have integrity of facts. If you don't have integrity of facts, you cannot have integrity. I mean, look, Brazil is a perfect example. Look at the number of people, starting with Zika, and then moving on to COVID. There are health issues involved here. Anything that impacts our emotions and our mind will determine how we act in the real world. So going back, online violence is real world violence. There should be gatekeepers in place.